All right, since we were a minute late last time,
That's right.
we decided to be a minute early this time. And now
we
all
owed
even.
it to the viewers of content content,
Yeah.
the listeners. The listeners won't know the difference, I guess, actually, but the viewers, the faithful who wake up at 8 a.m.
And I think this is a part of that great clip you put up, the positive and the negative, how you need the negative. So we needed that extra minute.
That's right.
To just bring it all in together, you know? So that's you can't have the other minutes.
Exactly.
Without that minute.
You can't start at 8:01 without also needing to start at 7:59 sometimes.
Exactly. You got it. It's just math. Just the universe math.
That's
you know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so we even it out. 7:59 this time, made up for the 8:01.
That's right. Good morning, now.
Good morning.
We did, Mike, and Mike, you're looking fantastic this morning. What can I say? Welcome to Content Content. My name is Derek. Across the computer screen in a fancy vest, Mike. I love the vest.
Yeah, I'm popping the Mr. Rogers collar here.
Dude, come on. That's a callback right there. Won't you be my neighbor this morning on Content Content, Mike? It looks fantastic. Looks phenomenal. Tall glass of water you're sipping on this morning, Mike.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Thirsty. With some ice. They say you shouldn't put ice, but I don't care.
Is ice bad for you nowadays?
They say something about the cold or something. I don't know. But I don't listen to everything they say. I'm a rebel.
It turns out that they are often wrong anyhow. So I tell you, cigarettes are
tastes good this way. Damn refreshing.
Yeah. Oh my
nice
gosh.
And cool.
Yeah. Come on. Even in the morning. Wow. Cold waters. Yeah. I guess you're supposed to drink like regular tap water, right?
That's
just
what
like
they say.
Lukewarm.
Yeah. I don't know much.
I think it has something to do with your body. Like it needs energy to, like, if you drink cold water, it has to make it warm or like get it to body temperature. Where if you just drink Well,
I like cold water so much that I completely blocked out the rest of the.
That's the thing.
As soon as they said, cold water's not good for you, I said, the hell with it. I'm drinking cold water. I like cold water.
I mean, it just feels intuitive. We talk a lot about intuitive knowledge on the show. When you're sweating, you've been running around. What feels better? A hot cup of water?
Let me get a nice hot cup of water.
Ice cold. Ooh, fresh. So fresh.
Yeah, even if it's all in my head, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we're programmed to it. Maybe it's part of the American value system, this ice cold water.
It's all a part of the American dream that we need to be disillusioned with before we can start on our journey.
That's correct.
On the road to life.
So, Mike, you've been stressing so much about COVID that you've been reading about the chemicals that create stress?
Yeah. You know me.
And did that bring you more solace, or did it in fact make you feel hardened in your stressness?
I learned I had I would never remember what these chemicals are called. So cortisol and epinephrine. And thank you for helping me pronounce that right earlier.
Yeah, I can't guarantee what I said was right.
Whatever the hell it is, it makes you.
We got a whole lot of it.
Yeah, and I was looking into stuff because as I shared here, I felt better this week and more energy. And I did get some good sleep, which I maybe wasn't getting so much the week before. And I think that made a big difference. And we always talk about that on the show, too, about how important sleep is.
I know. It's like the most basic teaching and yet the most important thing you could possibly do.
How huge that is, right? Something so straightforward, just getting a good night's sleep can boost your whole life completely in every single way.
Yeah.
And what I was learning, I was reading about how, like, during the pandemic, because of the uncertainty of everything, and just sort of, we have the fight or flight response that Dr. Ivan's always talking about, and if these chemicals are released like consistently, it's not unusual to have a lack of focus, to kind of not feel yourself, to feel tired. And it also said something that was happening to me, which is I was getting an unusually big appetite, like around lunchtime sometimes. And it was like very unusual. Like, I had eaten breakfast and I never really had normally that kind of an appetite. And from what I was checking into, apparently, because those chemicals are being released due to you're in this uncertain situation, which I don't need to explain to anybody here because
Things have been.
we're all in it. Mask, no mask, vaccine, no vaccine. It's not a problem. 99.9% of people are fine. But then someone who died, and then so it's this crazy
It's been a stressful time.
plethora of what the hell is happening.
Yes.
It's like to the 10th power. And it felt, for me, when I'm going through anything, I like to, if I can get some understanding of why it's happening, I don't expect me knowing that all of a sudden I'm going to be better.
Well, yeah, but
At least it feels good to be like, all right, well, this makes sense. Why I've been this way, how I feel, that makes sense. It was logical to me. It made me feel better. And who knows, maybe it helped me get that good sleep, because a few days later, after I kind of got to understand that, it really did help me, maybe it did to help me get some sleep.
Yeah, I believe that, man. Yeah, it's just not to dig in on this, but it's like we're really between a rock and a hard place now, because everybody feels it at this point. I think like everyone on planet Earth, for the most part, is like, I'm so done with this stuff, man. I'm so, even yesterday I was walking around outside. I'm so sick of the mask. And like, it seems so silly. Oh, Friday, it was like real nice out. Me and my girlfriend walking around the neighborhood. And like, I just took my mask down, and it was like 50 degrees, New York City. It's kind of like overcast. I just took like a big, deep breath, and like, it's so dumb to say, but like, outside smelled so good. Like and it smelled like December, where it's like a little bit damp and like kind of chilly, but like you could smell like the leaves dying or whatever that kind of just being outside in early winter smell is. And I took my mask down, and it smelled so good, where normally I'd be like, whatever, this is just outside. And I'm so sick of it. And yet we're at like, there are death rates and infection rates now that rival back in March and April, when everybody was like wiping their groceries when they came home. And I think a great many people are no longer doing that.
Yeah.
So that will give you some stress, myself included. But of course, as you mentioned, Mike, one of the most important spiritual, religious things we could possibly do is drink water and get some sleep. As we say on Content Content, all wisdom, the greatest wisdom of the world, is simple.
Yeah.
This world is so complicated and confusing. We just need to cut through a lot of the BS and drink water and go to sleep.
Got some
love
advice here from Joe.
Uncle Joe says you should try the nutritional supplement ZMA, zinc, magnesium, aspartate, vitamin B. Helps with sleep and recovery. There are like, I always take a multivitamin every day, and I'm a believer in some of those kind of like supplemental dietary kind of things. Again, I'm not a scientist or a dietitian by any means, but I
don't think it can hurt.
There.
Oh my God.
I'm going to say it. It's Sunday morning. Navi wrote a quote the other day that, quote, I miss raw dog in the air. And I think that's what I was just saying. But it's so silly.
Me
but
too.
It's true.
Me too.
Like, oh man, just walk around and be able to smell stuff.
Yeah, it's easy in my neighborhood, and Joe says zinc also helps with COVID too.
Oh yeah, zinc is one of those ones that's like, with your immune system, zinc can be something that like a lot of people are deficient in, I do believe. That is like a good supplement to take all the time to like boost yourself a little bit. And certainly, at this time as well. So you want me to do a little recap of last week here, Mike?
Yeah, man.
Toss it around a little bit.
Let's go for it.
So you had mentioned last week a very kind of delicate and very well thought out notion, I believe, of the sort of like dualistic nature of the web of mind, or the ego, the habitual thought patterns. This A, ego, that is rooted in fear and constantly defending itself, and the B, ego, that has cognizant of this sense of connection and being connected to everything. And that even Giovanna had posted something, maybe she'll pop up this morning, in our group this week, about kind of choosing between love and fear. There's a Ram Dass quote that I posted in there that was, in every opportunity in life, we have a choice between love and fear. We must respectfully say to fear, thank you very much, but I choose love. And that can be scary sometimes. Like Jack Kornfield says, if you ever have a compassionate impulse, just follow it then and there. And it won't always lead you to a wonderful, compassionate place. Sometimes you end up driving somebody to the airport, and nobody likes to do that. But it is a compassionate thing to do, and just do it. Because into the supercomputer that is the universe, if you put positivity, you will receive positivity back out of it. And again, that can be difficult. Joseph Campbell saying, the cave that you're afraid of going in is where the treasure you seek lies. It's not easy, but fear is trying to show you something. And if you present it with love, good morning, Miguel. Miguel's got some great pictures. He was like, by like a big giant airplane. Anyway, there's our first Twitch comment, by the way, Mike, is want to become famous by followers and primary viewers. Well, maybe we should do that.
All right. The rewards of streaming on Twitch.
We can become famous.
We can become famous, yeah.
We just have to buy followers by clicking some sort of Russian link.
There we go.
Well, we solved it, Mike. That was easy. Even though fear hurts, it is trying to show you something. It is trying to tell you something. And if we approach it from a compassionate, love-based standpoint, we can really grow, we can really affect change in our own lives, and consequently in the rest of the world. So then that kind of led us to this idea of, well, can anything actually be truly selfish? Because a commonly held belief, I need to take a me day. I just did it for me.
Yeah.
But
I like those.
I like that too, Who doesn't like to take a little time themselves, And the plain matter is, I had mentioned last week too that the biosphere, every organism is contingent upon one another, and they're all living together and working together, and they need one another. So you can't really do anything that's truly 100% selfish that doesn't affect anyone else. And it's not that if you do something selfish, it has to affect someone else negatively. But it just, by virtue of whether it's you said, I'm just going to take a bath. Okay, well, you ran some water, that your water bill went a little higher, and whatever. Everything has possible little ripple effects. No man is an island, despite what Paul Simon wants to tell us. That's a song from 50 years ago. And then you had mentioned, Mike, about Navi the Prophet. John was a fan of Navi's quote. Damn.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That's great.
That was great.
You had been very frank then, Mike, about sharing a dream that you had had a number of years ago, wherein, I believe, if I'm recanting this correctly, you were in an airplane, which I think your dad was in, and people are jumping out of the airplane without any instruction. They're just going. And I believe your dad said to you, Providence was the only thing you heard in the dream, which is, wow, what a dream, man.
Yeah.
You must have woke up in a cold sweat. But there is some kind of teaching there, as you had mentioned last week. Mm-hmm. The people weren't being instructed when to jump. They weren't saying, all right, ready? Okay, ready? All right, 3, 2, 1. They were just going.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, that's kind of what providence is. That's kind of what following the fear with compassion is. Knowing it's your time to jump out of the plane and just doing it. A lot of times, too, we overthink things and talk ourselves out of things and think, oh, God, maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. Maybe I should. Should I text him back? Should I not?
You're talking to me there.
Am I the type of person who even really does this kind of... I mean, what am I going to... Cognitive dissonance. And that providence is following the fear with compassion. Does that make any sense, Mike? What do you think about that?
Good morning, Les. And yes, it absolutely does. You're so good at like recapping. I'm so glad you're so good at that because I'm very bad at it. So we complement each other really well in that aspect.
Well, I would agree. Thank you.
That was an excellent recap. And yeah, man. It's so it speaks to me a lot, especially when from what we spoke of in the beginning, you're going through these different things. It all leads there. And one of the things that I love about the clip you put up about basically that. Well, I don't know if you put a clip on this yet, but it just the idea that we kind of left off on last week of selfishness is a myth. To use one of Ivan's ways of saying it,
He's always saying we're talking about myths.
It's a myth.
I'm like, dude, we're
selfishness
talking about real stuff. Okay?
is a myth, And it's very, what it is. It's very scholarly. Also, selfishness is a fallacy.
Oh yes, of course.
It is. It's very scholarly. Whenever I have a discussion with anybody who's actually gone to school, fallacy, is a big one.
All these big words they start using, throwing around.
Don't worry, this will not be as long and and as exhausting as the last thing I noted and read.
I would never find it to be exhausting, Mike.
But for me, it was. I'll tell you that.
Well,
and I got some sleep this week, and this is short and sweet, and I will never stop quoting Pema Chodron.
No,
she has such a unique perspective for someone like me who has a fundamentalist Christian background and in spirituality. She is such an opposite, which I love so much, and which is why sometimes when I've said it many times. Sometimes when I read her or I'm listening to an audiobook by Pema, it's just so uncomfortable. It's the nicest way I can say it. It's just so uncomfortable because, damn it. First of all, she has a great point usually, and it's always in such a way that it flies in the face of things that I hold dear.
She's really insulting.
Yeah, she's really just like, Mike, you've got this all wrong.
Just saying.
And so picking up where we left off of the idea that selfishness is an illusion. And I went into reading a little bit of Pema, and I also had these other outgrowths of that. The world isn't yours, but all of the world is you. That's just a thought I had, when you think of that other I, which I would even venture to relabel a little bit like the connected I, let's say. Mm-hmm. That connected I, which I think it was the BI, right?
That's correct.
So, and then loneliness is also an illusion. There's nothing separate about us. So that's kind of like those two things, selfishness is an illusion. The world isn't yours, which is this popular idea in culture, like that Scarface, the world is yours. Kind of idea, right?
Could you think of a worse role model for folks?
I mean, let's just. This is when you get into this mindfulness and when you get into Zen, into Buddhism, and in my opinion into true Christianity, that first century, think of who Jesus was, a Nazarene, in the East, certainly, with this influence of at that time of all the Greek philosophy, when you really get in there and when you look at the early Christianity, I mean, it matches much more to me with this stuff. It doesn't match well with a lot of the outgrowth that it's had, post Constantine. So back to that, and then this is where Pema kicks you, and she kind of says that what's really good is not hope. I'm paraphrasing here. And this is one of the ones when I that really hit me. It's in chapter 7 of When Things Fall Apart, and I reread it this week, and it's really to say that you need to have hopelessness. It's really like what? Because you even have learned hopelessness, which is a negative thing, that we're taught. Learned hopelessness is basically, they say that a lot of people get that because they feel like they can't do anything. They're worthless and they'll never be able to get further. That's sort of a learned hopelessness, which is like a bad thing,
Yeah, I mean, that can become a vortex.
So when she says,
desperation.
she talks about, so she reframes it and she says there's this, I'm saying it this way because it helps to kind of get the point across. It's like a good hopelessness, which is I'm saying this, it's the death of the illusion. That's the good hopelessness to me.
Well said.
And that helps me understand it better a little bit because, she's very direct. She says, this is a quote from Pema, giving up hope that there's somewhere better to be. And this is tricky though, because the words sound similar. So I'm gonna repeat it. Giving up hope that there's somewhere better to be or someone better to be. It's tricky because somewhere and someone, you got to really think about that. So is giving up the hope that, if I could only be in a cabin up in the middle of nowhere right now, everything would be fine. Giving up that hope, that's what she's talking about. Right. Giving up that hope that I could be better. There's someone better I could be, and then I'll be okay, and then I'll be happy. So she's basically, those are illusions. That's what she's talking about. Just like we said, selfishness is an illusion. The idea that the world is yours is an illusion. All you need to do is climb that mountain and look around, and you're going to see that. So I'm always happy when people are successful around me because I feel like that is going to be a level of maturity they're going to gain because they're going to look around and they're going to say, wait a second. You can't possibly 100% know that it's an illusion until you don't have to get the greatest success, but until you reach a couple of goals, they don't have to be big, lofty goals. It can even be whatever, to get this job or to lose this weight, whatever. You got to reach these goals and look around to kind of really get this. And then she goes on to say, we will never relax with who we are and where we are. So giving up hope that there's somewhere better to be and someone better to be, unless you can do that. So she says, without giving up hope that there's somewhere better to be and someone better to be, we will never relax with who we are and where we are.
Yes.
And damn it, if that ain't everything right there. And what I like about it too is the thing about her that's cool to me is that we fly around fear, all these ideas and concepts. We get bombarded with news, which I put up in the group a great quote that I found from your guy, Ramdas.
From Ramdas?
Yeah, and it's basically about the news and everything, and how not to get inundated with that, and to basically get inundated with stuff like what we're talking about. Which
much lighter.
Much lighter, yeah. So it's going to help you. It's going to feed you. It's good food. It's not junk food. It's not confusion. We're just trying to get better perspectives and things. And I think Leslie says very true. And that, Pema, she's not so bad. That's all I'm saying. Pema is not so bad. She's got some great stuff. Yeah. And it really, when you really think about it, and like we were saying, how bad is that idea of the American dream? The Scarface is like the epitome, and we started talking about that hero stuff a while back, and then I kind of looped back into the eye. But how bad of an example is he? I mean, he's the epitome of what many people idolize that character.
Yeah, right.
Many, and then at the end, the world is yours. But the thing that people don't realize is, what the hell did he achieve?
Right.
Let's really be honest. Killed his best friend. Look what he did to his sister. Ended up alone, shooting all over the place. High as a slave to addiction. I mean, this guy, and people admire this guy, and that's just to show you how kind of twisted, and maybe why. Yeah. Maybe why when I'm listening to this phenomenal wisdom. You know, when I'm reading this book by Pema, it's like maybe that's why it kind of confronts me a little bit, because I've got all this stuff programmed, and deprogramming that is such a key, and it's going to be uncomfortable. Right. You know, I think if you don't read a quote or read a book or listen to a lecture from some of the great thinkers and spiritual practitioners, or whatever you want to call them, I think if you listen and nothing kind of punches you a little bit in the gut, then you're not listening.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Yeah, I was going to say about Pema and like just teachers in general, there is a common trope of the Zen teacher who is not like taking you in, oh, you're okay, it's going to be a great day. Like the Zen teacher is the person who's like messing with you constantly. Even take like Yoda, who I think is ostensibly based on like a sort of Japanese Zen teacher. When he takes Luke to the island there, he's like very austere with him. Yeah, he's pushing you, making you feel uncomfortable, and making you realize where you're still holding, where you still have attachments to things that are not so important. And when Pema talks about hopelessness, I think she's sort of tapping into the Buddha's first realization, which is that all life involves suffering. So the erroneous notion that, well, not now is not good, but if I could get to that place over there, the grass is actually greener over there. So if I just do that, and once I get there, then that actually never exists no matter what you do. And now that can be kind of a bummer. That's kind of a bummer thought. However, once you truly reconcile with that thought, you can look around and say, all right, well, how can I make this moment a little better? And I'd like to jump back to something my Uncle Joe said here, that happiness is not having what you want, but wanting what you have.
Yes.
That is precisely what I'm talking about. And one of the kind of wonderful things about the spiritual path, let's say, and this is something that's very comforting to me at all times, is the next message is always right where you are. You are never, no matter what life circumstance you are in, you are never more than one step away from getting back on the spiritual path that will lead you to a more positive world. Even if you're in the depths of despair, even if it's a situation you created yourself, you're never more than one step to getting back on the path. So being, let's say, what Pema might say, being too hopeful and having these pie-in-the-sky dreams is maybe maybe being upset with where you're at and wanting to take 25 steps to completely, again, we talk about like make a complete right change in your life. You're like, you know what? New Year's resolution, I'm going to work out, okay? I'm going to work out for 2.5 hours every single day. So let me go out and buy like $600 worth of workout clothes because I'm going to need it, because I'm going to, it's like, that is often, if you can do that, good for you, but it is often a futile gesture. That one step, it's only ever one step. And that is something that is actually very hopeful. And that's, just to circle back a little bit, Mike, because someone may say this to us, like selfishness is a sort of illusion in the sense that we're all connected. You even said like loneliness is kind of an illusion because we're constantly connected.
Yeah.
But to play devil's advocate to that, loneliness and selfishness are things people absolutely feel. So why do they feel that way if they are illusions?
Repeat that last part one more time.
Loneliness and selfishness are illusions. But why do people feel them then?
That's fascinating. Well, that's That's a great question. I think let's pick that up. I just want to go over some of these comments, and I think Leslie said it's the badass personality that attracts people. I think that's pretty fair to say, and I think Navi says you know how people are addicted to things that are taboo, and
That's an interesting point too.
it was literally just a good movie. There you go. Maybe not that much to be made of.
Oh, about Scarface?
Yeah, yeah. So
That's a decent point too. It's not like everybody watching it was
yeah,
like,
so
I
it's
need to be like, you'd be like, yeah, it was a good movie, whatever.
that's yeah, but hopefully that's I think that's a healthy approach to it.
But certainly, but
But-
Scarface, to defend our point a little bit, Scarface is one movie in a series of movies like The Godfather and Taxi Driver
Yeah,
and all that stuff,
exactly.
where you have this badass dude who's like not a hero at all. And I think it's a Foucault quote that there's no such thing as an anti-war movie because by virtue of sitting in a theater and seeing stuff explode on television screen or movie screen rather,
Yeah.
back when we used to do that, it's inherently like awe-inspiring. So you almost can't help it.
Yeah, and I
But,
also
yeah,
I also feel that in line with like Leslie says, it's the badass personality, and I think that's sort of a key because what ends up kind of like happening with people, I think, is that many people lack the courage to do the things they would like to do, which is painting. That's the content definition of it.
And in
Doing
their
the
defense,
things.
it's hard. It's
And
often
yeah, it's very hard.
to follow your heart.
And I think that these badass guys, and which I think Leslie's naming more, keeps replaying himself with badass. Yeah, Hitler, Alexander the Great, Trump, popularity can be perceived as the hero. So I'm sure as many people might not agree with the Trump part, but some
It's a
would.
little unfair to Don, I think.
But no, but let's just build on that though. I think that all those people, are looked to and admired, and by many people. Like for example, Hitler's quite recent, so it's still sort of appalling. But you watch I was watching a course on Roman history, and the way the guy, when he would say, even though Alexander the Great is separate from that, but he's he was talked about a bit. And when he said Alexander the Great, it was like in such a like excited way as to how much he accomplished. And I think it's that part of these heroes that people admire, the fact that they went against the grain, did these damn near impossible things, quashed their feelings, their emotions, and their humanity, like in order to accomplish those things. And maybe that's something that, that's why people are sort of in awe, like, wow, this person, I have feelings. I don't want to hurt people, Wow, look at this person. They have no feelings, which we define as sociopaths or narcissists, which we think is a bad thing. But
yes.
But let's, just for the record, folks, this is not we're not out here saying this is great. But we're just trying to kind of dig into why people, because it kind of came up in the comments,
Right.
why people are attracted to that. And I think that, what do you think, Derek? I think those are some reasons.
Oh, definitely. And it makes me think of, there's an economist in the early 20th century, Thorsten Veblen. I had mentioned him before when we were talking about the American value system. He was one of the first kind of popular economists to recognize the fact that the way the American value system was progressing was such that not only was like a degradation in your material circumstance affect your life materially, but it was also spoke about a lack of dignity on your part. So if you're always eating off of fine china and you have to eat on a paper plate one night, not only is it materially bad, but it's offensive to you. How dare you? And
that's a good way.
That's kind of messed up, right? But he talked about how we are still kind of, and again, I've thought about this a lot too. A lot of what the human species is going through from a 10,000 foot view is actually kind of natural. That what we're coming out of the jungles where we have a very much a scarcity principle. Everything is, we constantly have to fight and scrap. Now, I think a lot of the world, if we're distributed properly, we have a surplus mindset. But we're still, certainly the people that are in control and own the world are very much under a scarcity principle. And consequently, that attitude, that feeling trickles down to the rest of us. So, like, Thorsten Veblen talked about how a lot of folks are or incentivized to still feel in this kind of like caveman type of way, where if you went out and you were the guy who shot the big moose so that everybody could eat, you come home and you got it on your back and you're carrying it around and everybody goes, whoa, look at you, oh my gosh, so cool. That this like display of accomplishment or like material gaining, and everybody goes, whoa, wow, that's really cool, I'd like to do that. We still kind of, and this is why, like he said, anyway, that we're still kind of under that principle. And so often it's not that people want to like do the communist thing and get rid of all the managers and so that have everything be egalitarian. It's that they want to be the manager. I want to be the cool guy in the movie who's the hero who gets the girl in the end or whatever. How egotistical do you have to be, by the way, to call yourself Alexander the Great?
Oh yeah, but they did that all. When you look through the history, like many of the emperors, the titles they would give themselves, there would be multiple layers of that. But that's all a part of it, and it is something. Leslie says heroism, and Joe has a good comment. Perhaps people are attracted to the characters because they do whatever they want, which is a kind of power that most of us will never see. Yeah, I think that's pretty valid.
I think that's true. And I think, most people won't have that, and we all kind of seek it. I do think, it depends on where you're coming from. Because I was going to say, like, a person who does whatever they want. Well, Hitler kind of did whatever he wanted.
But that's what I mean. But I think we're only sensitive to Hitler. And just to be frank here, I mean, because it's so near. When you see, and what it did, and because it's also, it's not. We have to admit there are people who admire him right now.
Yeah.
And I think that it's not acceptable to admire him, so people aren't going to just be out there. There's some people who are brave enough and really don't care enough and to be, still sporting his symbolism and everything and the ideology. But I think that's part of it too. Why not Hitler? Not to interrupt you there, but I just felt like to point that out, that I think that some probably do.
And you know what? Doing whatever as with so many things, what gets lost in like discourse or discussions about what gets lost is someone's intent. So someone could be doing whatever they want, but again, if they're following that love, the be ego concept, the be I, if they're doing it from a standpoint of compassion, and that's what they want to do, then that's great. But people like messianic leaders throughout history, as we've talked about with Machiavelli in the past couple weeks, they're doing whatever they want, but they are consistently driven by fear. And the reasoning for wanting to follow, why it's objectively better to follow the love path than it is to follow the fear path, is for the simple fact that it just makes your life easier. It just makes your existence more wholesome and rewarding. And that when you continually follow fear, it didn't end well for Hitler. I'm not sure how it ended for Alexander the Great, but it couldn't have been that great. It didn't end well for Napoleon. It didn't end well for Al Pacino there. When you do whatever you want, but you are allowing yourself to be consistently governed by fear and running away from things that maybe you don't want to do, but your existence is telling you should do.
Yeah.
you get yourself into a very dangerous position. And then it becomes even more dangerous when you have a whole value system that is telling you to follow fear. Again, I know I keep mentioning this, but it's worth repeating that everything on the television is telling you you're not good enough. Follow that fear. Fear, 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 fear. Buy the toothpaste.
Yeah. And and I think you hit it on the head there. And also just real quickly, same as Alexander the Great was killed also. And if
I had
you go
a feeling
through,
it didn't end well for Alex.
you go through all the emperors, it was either someone in their staff that killed them. I mean,
Caesar got stabbed by his best friend. I mean, come on.
Very few of them weren't killed by somebody and then overthrown.
No, they never just ascend into heaven.
You live by the sword, you die by the sword.
That's right. Yeah.
That's the facts. But yeah, I love how you brought it home because see, there is a choice here, and even though you brought it right into the content world, right? And I think that's the key. Despite the messaging we get, despite because even a lot of people were wondering, why do people like Trump? And Ice Cube, before he was even elected, he had a great video that was going around. And he said, and I'm not even going to get too wordy about it because he said it very simple. He said, people like him because he's a boss. And that's he said, and that's what Americans worship.
Yeah.
That's what every American wants to be.
Of course.
A boss.
Sure.
And he basically at the time knew Trump was probably going to win because he's a boss, and that's how simply he put it. And I think it was brilliant. And I think Ice Cube's a really smart guy. And to go back and bring it home, the way you did, Derek, which thank you. It is a choice because we're getting this messaging. This is the mammon system, which I love to call it because that is what it's called in the New Testament. You can't serve God and mammon. And it's one or the other. And you do need... See, I think what we admire about these people, and I think Joe's comment was really, really perfect. I'm just putting... We said it before. I just threw it up on the screen. And it's perfect because, he's saying perhaps people are attracted to characters because they do whatever they want. And that's what painting is. So we... have this potential to paint, but the examples we're given that are glorified in our culture are the Alexander the Greats. Look, he painted, but he painted the most bloodiest,
the world red.
The ones we're talking about, are the perfect examples. They painted the world in the most ugliest, destructive, hurtful, hateful way, and that's what that's what real bosses do according to our culture.
I know.
A real boss doesn't care. A real boss is cold, has subdued their humanity, and just submitted to the mammon system.
Yes.
And they learn the mammon system well. They understand how it operates. They subdued their feelings, their emotions, and their humanity to the point where they're machine-like and they're goal-oriented and agenda-driven, and they do not at all listen to that, what we're always talking about, whether you want to call it fame doesn't last as long as infamy. Joe, fact. And I think that they're not submitting to that the I that we're talking about. They're not saying I'm going to paint to us what we think is a more beautiful way. John Apicella says, so true. What's up, John? So yeah, man, and I think it's powerful, to look at it that way, and that's why those people are admired, and why the tough guy, in quotes, I'll put the tough guy in quotes, because you know what, the tough thing really to me is to grow up in this society and to deny that pull, to become disillusion the way Pema talks about here. Can I come back to Pema a little bit here?
Please do, man.
Because this is to me, I had my disillusionment with the world, which is what set me on my path. And I think there was also a great, we've been having so many good comments. It's been hard to throw them all in. I think
John mentioned
that's what I'm thinking about.
A tremendous desire to be led, which is something that he's mentioned a couple times, I feel like. And that's worth exploring too.
And this is actually the one I was thinking of. We didn't get to, but it fits with what I'm saying.
I didn't even see that. Is the benefit of hope to start the journey, maybe guiding you through crossroads?
And I want to jump in there because that's what I'm talking about, and I think that's what you brought it home to for content, and I think that's what Pema's talking about. That crossroads, which to me was the disillusionment with everything, which is, I believe, the eye-opening, which I would equate to becoming awakened, seeing it's all BS, and to choosing a different way on your own, which is the only power we have. Back to one of my favorite Viktor Frankl's, which is, I'm going to butcher the quote, but this is paraphrasing, that once they take everything away from you, the only power you have left is how you respond to everything in your mind and in your soul and in your spirit. So they can take it all away. They can. He was in a concentration camp. They took everything away from him, and somehow he, this brilliant mind and this person who didn't submit to that realized, I know that I still have a choice how to respond to this, and if I can make it out of here, I'll be okay. And he did that. And he still had that one power, which I think you touched on not too long ago, Derek, which is that one thing, which we talked about maybe a couple shows ago, which we determined is probably the most powerful thing there is.
I think so.
And I'm co-signing that. I think it's the most powerful thing that there is for us, as humans, is how we respond, how we take all this information, and now I'm going to jump into Pema because she said, this is it. It's good hopelessness. Once you become disillusioned with the world, once you become disillusioned with the system, once Scarface and Alexander the Great and Hitler and people like that are no longer your heroes, and you're disillusioned with the guy who owns Amazon and Bill Gates and trying to control everything and be on top. Once you're disillusioned with those concepts, like John said, that's kind of the crossroads. That's the first step. That's like we talked about that story. I think we talked about it a while back, where it's a story of I don't know where I got this from, but it's a guru who sits there and he has someone who's submitted to the guru, and he's like, I want to go and I want to figure this out. And then he's like, go ahead, go figure it out. The guy goes, climbs the mountain, figures this, comes back, and he's like, oh, I want to know what it is that drives the human spirit. He's like, go for it. And he does this a bunch of times, and then finally the guys, after 10 times of doing this, comes back to the guru and is like, you know what? I don't know what the hell's going on. Every mountain I climb is the same BS. And then the guru says, oh, okay, today we'll start. And that's the crossroads. That's what John's talking about. That's what Pema's talking about. Well, that's what this whole show is almost about.
Yeah, good point.
And so it's good hopelessness. There's bad hopelessness and there's good hopelessness. And once you see all that is not it, and then we can jump into something like, I'm going to read it again. She says, this is me saying, good hopelessness is the death of the illusion. That's the crossroads. And let's recap. The world isn't yours, but all of the world is you. Loneliness is an illusion. There's nothing separate about us. Selfishness is an illusion. These are themes. And then let's jump in here with her quote. Without giving up hope that there's something better to be and someone better to be, we will never relax with who we are and where we are. Man, that's power, man. That's so powerful because it's so against our culture. It's so against the heroism of these tyrants and these horrible people who murder people and who don't care and who fire people and don't care about anything except getting their agenda through,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be disillusioned with that. And Leslie says, and it's never fulfillment, no matter what you do. Exactly. And that's what that guy learned. He kept climbing the mountains. That's what I've learned in my life. You climb those mountains, you look, disillusionment. And I think the disillusionment, it can be a terrible moment. You're in the wilderness, but damn it, it's probably there's another, I think we said this recently, a gift is often wrapped in a nightmare.
Yeah.
And disillusionment may seem like a nightmare, like, well, this is a tricky part of your life.
Yeah,
when you become disillusioned, it can lead to suicide. It can lead to depression. It can lead to the darkest of places. But it is a crossroads, like John said. It's a crossroads because you have to decide from that point on, and hopefully you have some influence in your life that can give you a little bit of a light at that darkness.
And again, the next message is always right where you are. You're never more than one step away from the spiritual path.
That's that moment. That's that moment right there. And if that next message comes, it can be the difference between the end of your life, because unfortunately some people end their life at that moment, and it can also be the beginning of your life.
True.
Which is not going to be easy, which is going to be more accepting. This is how things are. There's this, there's that, and sort of to deal in the reality of things instead of these illusions we're talking about.
That's what I was going to say too, with regard to Pema's hopelessness or whatever. It's almost like a realistic hopefulness. So, again, it's not this 90-degree turn in your life. I'm going to be a totally different person starting today. It's life involves suffering, and that's okay. But if you can harmonize with that, you can work your way towards experiencing less of it from a realistic point of view, one step at a time. And what did John say there? When you see a fork in the road, take it.
That's a good, easy way. Oh, we've got an Erica comment.
Oh,
here.
what's Erica got to say?
The
Therefore,
first
do not
time.
worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Today has enough trouble of its own. That's another like mindfulness, presence. Again, taking that one step. Don't take 10 steps because nobody's ever done that in the history of time. You can't take, that's like a Zen koan in and of itself. How do you take 10 steps at once? It's not possible. How about your Bible verse there, Mike? Matthew 6:34 kind of reminds me of this. You know what that is?
I think that's where it says tomorrow has enough worries of its own.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
I think that's that one. I think. I'm not sure.
Navi says, notice in all those movies, any person that is of any power either sees their demise or they somehow sacrifice themselves in a more influential way before giving up any ego. And that's the actual lesson from movies like that. And again, like I mentioned before, like sometimes because it is a movie, you can't help but like admire whomever the big people on the big screen. But they all do reach their untimely demise before they give up one shred of their ego and their fear-governed concept of themselves.
Yeah.
And they have a terrible demise.
And it's and I want to just throw a little something in there too, because that is living completely in the bad ego.
Yes, that is very much that ego concept, the AI.
That bad ego, and what I like too is that we're getting into a space in the show where we used to kind of pick on something and be like, oh, that's bad, but we're growing in a way where we're realizing there is a good ego. Yes. There's a bad ego. There's a bad hopelessness that learned hopelessness from society, from culture, which can lead to your killing yourself. But we also learning there's a good hopelessness, which is that acceptance and that honesty and dealing with things as they are and not as the illusion in mainstream society is painting it as.
Right. And again, when everything in culture is telling you you're not good enough, and we are obsessed with our individual differences. Somebody asks you the very broad question at a party, what do you do? Well, I'm a lawyer and I'm a mother and I live in blah, blah, blah. And we list our individual differences. But truly, this sounds hokey, but the question, what do you do? Well, I do all sorts of things,
Yeah.
And so, but we're obsessed with, well, but no, these are the things that I like, and those are the things that I don't like, and this is my existence, and this is what it is. And it is kind of hovering on the concept of like original sin, that you are not good enough.
Yeah.
But you have to earn and achieve. At least that's, I think, the American, whatever, Protestant version of that.
Absolutely.
You should not like yourself. You are not good.
Yeah.
So you better get out there and start doing stuff and start working in the fields or whatever.
You know, that
And that
right
hurts
there.
to feel that way.
You know what? And I'm going to say this is the perfect time to talk about, I think that should be the topic of the
Yeah,
rooms.
agreed.
That is excellent, and it is a great outgrowth of this show, because can you repeat that one more time, Gary?
Absolutely, man. Everything in the American value system, everything on the television tells you you're not good enough. And we are also, just maybe this is an inherent thing, we can certainly appreciate our individual differences insofar as some people are not like others, and some people are extraordinary in certain ways, and others are extraordinary in other ways. But we are obsessed with our individual differences. No, I'm not like that. I do this. Well, I'm a guy who does this, and you're shocked, and you make beats, and it lends itself to the notion of the original sin, that you yourself, by being here, are not good.
Yeah.
Just being alive doesn't make you good. You have to achieve, you have to earn, you have to become the manager, you have to become the CEO, and then and only then will people like you, can you feel good about yourself. So you better get out there, because now is not good enough. And that hurts. And it sucks to feel like that. And it is reinforced constantly by almost everyone and everything in your existence as the way that the American value system is structured currently.
Yes. So I have a ton to say on this.
As do I.
And I'm not going to, because we're going to save that for the room. What we're going to do, anybody who hasn't joined the Facebook group yet, it's a private group that anybody can join.
That's right. It's very exclusive. It's very hard to get into. That being said, if you'd like to join, just let us know. We'll let you in.
We'll let you right in. But it is private in a sense that no one can share. So you can share some things in there, and it will only be to the. We've already got 40-something people in there. It'll only be for them, and we've tried to invite and let people know about it who are interested in these conversations. And I think this is a great place to start. So we're going to do a room in the Facebook private group, which means we've never done one, so we don't know exactly what it means. But from what we understand and what I've looked up, it's a room, and any of you guys can join on video. As long as you got, your camera, you can be on your phone, whatever.
I think we can probably just do audio too if you just want to talk into your phone.
Yeah, maybe you don't want to show yourself. Maybe you're whatever. Whatever. And I think you can still.
If you listen to content, you're probably pretty good looking. Let's be honest.
It's a prerequisite.
Absolutely.
So I think you just join and you can be in the conversation. So maybe me and Derek can be kind of more of moderators there and hear what you guys have to say, and that'll be fun. And because one of the big we've got a bunch of overarching themes. I love the way Ivan reviewed the podcast, and he said we're always looking at the why. That was cool. It's nice to see how someone else sees the show,
Definitely.
And for me, revelation through conversation is huge. Using the dialectic method first instead of the sophist. That's a big part of what we do, and you guys have been seeing us doing it, and we'd love for you to join us. And this is a great concept because it drives a lot of what we're talking about, and it's at the core of it. And I'm biting my tongue because there's so much I want to say about it. But
so I think that's going to be Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Would you say, Mike?
That sounds good.
Yeah.
7 p.m.
So yeah, a lot of times we have comments on the show, and they really help the show. We really help shape the discussion. So if you'd like to expand on a couple things, jump on in. We'll put up a poster, and we'll make sure that everybody knows about it ahead of time. But we really would like to have a really kind of cool discussion like that. So and yeah, I think the topic can be kind of original sin. How things in culture make you feel like you're not good enough, and what are the results of that? What are the effects of that? How does that affect you personally? How do you see it affecting other people also?
And I will tease a little bit of something I really want to discuss on that, because maybe it'll make people more interested in the conversation. I want to talk about because throughout Christianity, the style of preaching and the focuses have changed through the centuries. So one century is focused on this, maybe the pain that was inflicted on Christ is huge. And you'll see it in the artwork, which I think this is probably, I don't know, 5th, 6th century, maybe, or I'm not sure. I'm probably messing up the time period. But you'll look at artwork and from that period, religious artwork, and you'll say, man, that must be in that period because they're just so focused on his physical pain. And people were, and then you look at other periods. So I'm just saying that to show that it changes, it evolves. And at some point, there became a tremendous focus on making people feel guilty. And I believe this is in probably the second revival, they call it, which was sort of like when America was coming together. There was these big revivals. And at that time, you'll see paintings of people crying, bawling from the guilt of their sin, of their wretchedness. And that is something that is very, very interesting, and it adds to that conversation because our society is certainly influenced by the Christian culture and the secular culture combined, because they fed each other during that time, and they always do. They're never they think they're alone, which is fits in with what we've been talking about today.
True.
Secular thinks they're over here, science thinks they're over here, and religion thinks they're over here, but they're connected whether they like it or not. And the fact that they think they are not is an illusion.
Is a fallacy.
I'll say it's a fallacy. Yeah, I like the fallacy. Makes me sound like I went to school. It's a fallacy. That argument is a fallacy, sir.
That's correct.
Now get out of my classroom. So would you mind reading this one, and then I'll look for the outro music.
Absolutely. Les says, I ask people, his patients, what do you do for a living on a daily basis? And you know what I've noticed about the elderly people who answer the question their life and where they live, I can directly tie with their past profession. So they answer the question, what do you do, with their life and where they live. I can directly tie with their past profession. So even still, as a person who's not working or actively in this career,
they're still identifying.
Of course, they have to be like, well, I was a court reporter for many years, and then I also,
which I would even say, how kind of sad is that?
I know,
because it means that your identity was so tied to what you do that when you stop doing it, you're still reaching back for who you were.
Yeah, right.
Woo!
Right. Which is, you couldn't have a more patent example of not being present in the moment, in the now.
Yeah. I'm going to dare say that probably doesn't make them feel very good.
I would imagine not, no.
Yep.
Mike, let me ask real quickly before we go. Did you ever work with Ice Cube?
No, I haven't.
Never ran around with him?
Yeah, no. I think he was too smart to take one of my beats.
I'm still thinking about Busta Rhymes, by the way, saying that if you don't text me back in 24 hours, you're not my real friend.
Oh, God,
I mean, Buster, a great artist, but, dude, I was busy.
Alexander the Great's fault, man. Hey, thank you.
All right, so we'll talk to you guys Wednesday night, 7 p.m.
Yeah, Wednesday night
discussion.
Please join the group. Would be nice to get some of you guys in there. And it might feel weird at first, but trust me, me and Derek felt pretty damn weird the first time we did this too. So
it took us 33 episodes to figure out what the heck we were doing.
Yeah, we finally, after 33, we were like, hey. After the 33rd, we like, hey, I think we kind of figured it out a little bit finally. It took 33 episodes. All right, Les. Till next time, guys.